Hello everybody, and I'd like to welcome you to the debut episode of Gene's Reviews. Okay, every week I'm going to be reviewing a movie that's streaming, either on Netflix or Hulu, or if you have a Roku, it might be streaming on Shudder or something like that. I'm not going to limit this to any specific genre. I like all kinds of movies, so I'm going to do all kinds of movies. And I'm going to try and start this out with one movie per week. After a while, I'm going to try and get it up to maybe 2 or 3. Also, once a week, I will be not necessarily reviewing, but recommending a podcast, because I listen to podcasts all the time. And I think there's a lot of great podcasts out there that just really don't get the recognition they deserve. And I'd like to give them a shout out, and you should listen to them if you're not already. Okay, the first episode, or the first movie I'm going to review this week, is streaming now on Netflix, and it's called BackCountry. This is a Canadian film. It's considered a horror thriller. I would consider it more thriller, but it does have some horror elements in it. It's directed and written by Adam McDonald. It stars Jeff Roop, Missy Peregrine, and Nicholas Campbell. Okay, the synopsis: an urban couple go camping in the woods and find themselves lost and being stalked by a predatory black bear. Okay, actually, I like this movie. I didn't love it, but I did like it. The only problem that I had with this movie was the directing. And not all of it, just at the very, very end, it gets very dramatic, and he uses slow motion, and then he speeds it up again and slows it down again. It was just very predictable about, kind of what you would expect. I like the acting by everybody in the movie, especially Missy Peregrine. I thought she did an awesome job. And I'm going to use the same type of rating that Netflix uses. They do a 5-star rating. I will give this, I'm leaning kind of between 2.5 and 3, so I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars. And I think, yeah, you should stream it. It's not a bad movie, not bad at all. There is one scene that I was talking about when it has some horror elements. The attack by the bear is pretty brutal. I mean, really, I like the movie. I think you should check it out. And let's see. Okay, like I said, every week I'm going to do a recommend on a podcast. And the podcast I'm recommending this week is called Movie Podcast Weekly. Okay, the people on that podcast, let's see, we have the film critic, Jason Piles, the actor, Carl Huddleston, the geek, Ryan Elliott, and the filmmaker, a guy named Andy. There used to be the filmmaker, Joshua Legary. I think he still makes special appearances on the show, but he's on 2 or 3 other podcasts, which I will be recommending also. And what I like about this podcast is they are really comfortable with each other. They joke around. It's not so boring. They're not stuffy. I have a lot of the same opinions as almost everybody on the show. And I recommend it. It's a really good podcast to listen to. Again, that's called Movie Podcast Weekly. You can find it on iTunes, and I'm sure all the other places. I personally use a app on my phone called Podcast Addict, which also you can use the iTunes search engine on that app to search your podcasts, and that's how I find it. But I recommend that you get it, you subscribe to it, and also watch the movie BackCountry, streaming now on Netflix. 3 out of 5 stars, and thank you. See you next week.